Hello everyone. I wanted to continue on my Legends series, and today I wanted to give one of my all-time favorite bowlers, Allan Donald of South Africa, obviously. And I was obviously, of course, going to put him as one of my legends. But today I wanted to put him because I wanted him to be next to Hansi because they were such good friends, good mates, and they were actually like brothers. And both are from Free State as well, province of Free State. And Hansi and Aaron Donald was one of the best captain bowler combinations I've ever seen as well, together with Mark Taylor and Shane Warne. Alan Donald was born 20th October 1966, and he was born in Bloemfontein, Orange Free State province in South Africa. And he is definitely one of the most feared fast bowlers of all time, one of the most hostile, aggressive bowlers of all time. And first class cricket, he played for obviously Free State, and he also played a lot for Warwickshire in England, English County, and he also played a season with Worcestershire. And he took a lot of wickets for Warwickshire as well, and was a main factor why they were a leading force in county championship. And in all, he played 72 test matches, and he took 330 test wickets, which was a record for South Africa at that time. And he took 25 wicket hauls and 3 wicket hauls. And one day internationals, he played 164 matches, and he took 272 wickets. And in first class cricket, he took 1,216 wickets with 68 5 wicket hauls and 9 wicket hauls. And Alan Donald was very famous for wearing the sunscreen, on his nose and lips, and he always used to have sunscreen around here. And I have to say, of all the bowlers that I've seen, I've already mentioned he's one of my personal favorites, and I even model my action on Donald, and I used to get a lot of in-swingers because of that. And I also his autobiography is one of the first sports autobiographies that I have read as well. I don't have it with me now. I gave it to a friend and he never returned it. And I should have read it at least 100 times. And at the end of the book, back of the book, it was written. I don't remember the exact words, but it was written that if you have ever felt the excitement and energy of the St. George's Park band in Port Elizabeth when Alan Donald measures his run up, then this book is for you. People in South Africa will definitely remember the St. George's Park band, and they were very vocal when Alan Donald had a ball in his hand. And I have to say, Alan Donald's action is the best action that I have ever seen. Michael Holding, Dennis Lee, there are a lot of good actions, but Alan Donald's bowling action was amazing. He had a gentle, smooth run up, and it was such a supple action. But he had a very aggressive and fast bowling action as well. So it was a combined action, and he has such a rhythm in his bowling. And he made his ODI debut. When South Africa got readmitted to cricket in 1991, and they played their first one-day match against India at Eden Gardens, Calcutta, and Alan Donald took a 5 wicket haul as well, and even took the wicket of Sachin Tendulkar. And but talking about Sachin Tendulkar, Donald always rated Sachin Tendulkar and Brian Lara as the best two batsmen that he has ever bowled to. But he said Steve-O and Michael Atherton were the most toughest batsmen that he had ever bowled to. And it's impossible to talk about Alan Donald without mentioning his absolute duel with Michael Atherton in that fourth Test match in 1998 at Trent Bridge, where England were chasing 247 to win, and Donald bowled a bouncer, and Michael Atherton clouded, and he was clearly out, but the umpire didn't give him out, and Michael Atherton didn't walk either. And Donald was like furious about it. And the next ball, he inside edged a ball to fine leg for four, and Donald even got even more furious. And the next 20-30 minutes is the best fast bowling that I have ever seen in my life. It was totally hostile and aggressive, and he was coming around the wicket and bowling bouncers at Michael Atherton, and Michael Atherton was hit on the body many times, and he even fell on the ground. But all credit to Michael Atherton. He batted. He was a very tough batsman, and he actually scored 100, and he won the match for England as well. And Donald's famous spell 96 97 in that Sydney Test match against Steve-O and Marco, again bowling a lot of bouncers, and he hit Steve-O and Marco many times on the body. That these two were the most hostile fast bowling I've ever seen in my life. And in the 90s, there were so many great bowlers: Wasim Akram, Waqar Yunus, Ambrose, Walsh, McGrath. But Allan Donald was definitely the most feared, hostile, aggressive bowler in the 90s. And he was definitely aggressive non-stop. I mean, one of my favorite, not one of my favorites, my favorite sportsman ever was Andre Agassi, the tennis player. And Roger Federer once said that he was aggressive non-stop, and that is exactly how I should describe Allan Donald. Every time he had the ball in hand, he was totally aggressive. And he was extremely fast, obviously, and he was obviously called the White Lightning. I forgot to say that he was known as the White Lightning, and he was extremely fast, and his body language was also aggressive, very aggressive, and he never uh, he always probably had a word with the batsman as well, and all his tests, and he was really a full package of a fast bowler, and he had excellent stamina and rhythm, and he was a for 100% giver. He always gave his best, and he was very good in Indian conditions as well. If you remember the Titan Cup in '96 when South Africa lost in the finals, Allan Donald was the highest wicket taker, and he was the Titan of the Titans, the man of the series in that tournament. So he really bowled well in the subcontinent as well. And in 1998, he had an excellent series in England. He took 33 wickets in that Test series. I mean, that series that I was talking about, Michael Atherton as well. South Africa unfortunately lost the Test series because of bad umpiring by Javed Akhtar of Pakistan, which was later confirmed as a match fixed thing, the umpiring. But sadly, South Africa lost that Test series. And in 1998, he took the 80 wickets in that calendar year, and I think is the fourth highest ever in a calendar year. And Donald, together with Sean Pollock, was definitely one of the most successful bowling pairs in the world. And it was such a contrasting bowling partnership as well, because Allan Donald was obviously very fast, aggressive, and Sean Pollock obviously not the fastest. He bowled around 130s, but he was excellent with his line and length, moved the ball well. So they complemented well, very well each other, and they were such a successful opening partnership. They took so many wickets, and they are one of the top all-time wicket takers as a bowling partnership as well. And in 1996, there was an incident where the UAE Sultan came to bat without a helmet against Allan Donald, and he was really upset about it. And Pat Simcox told him that he should bowl a bouncer, and Donald bowled a few bouncers, and he actually hit the Sultan on his head. And in his autobiography, he said that that's one moment that he thought that he had killed a batsman, but thankfully nothing happened to the Sultan of UAE. But that is Donald. He was totally aggressive all the time. And one thing I have to say, of all the bowlers that I've ever seen in my life, I don't think anyone had a better bouncer than Allan Donald. I have hardly ever seen a bouncer that Donald bowled that batsman just evaded easily or just went over the head. A lot of fast bowlers just bowl these bouncers which go over the head of the batsman. But when Donald bowled a bouncer, either he hit the batsman on the body or the head helmet, or he made them really make a big duck. He never bowled a bouncer that was just meaningless or just went over the head. He had the most well-directed bounce, and that made him such a dangerous bowler. And obviously with his pace, and he had such a good in-swinger, obviously with his action as well. And one of the best balls that I've ever watched also was that in 1996-97, that Test series against India in Durban, he bowled Sachin Tendulkar with an absolutely beautiful ball, and his off-stump went cartwheeling. And Donald was like really celebrating, and he ran like a plane, and he actually got an advertisement for South African Airways, I heard, after that. And one of the best balls he bowled was in 1999 as well to Michael Atherton. He bowled an in-swinging Yorker that took his leg stump off, and that was one of the best balls I've seen as well. And that day, England were 2 for 4. They lost 4 wickets for 2 wickets, and that is one of the crazy matches where Donald and Pollock, they took 19 wickets out of the 20 wickets that fell for England. That was one of the great achievements. Donald and Pollock really demolishing England that day. And in 1998, I think Donald and Pollock took almost 150. I think I read 150 wickets together. They were such a menacing bowling partnership, especially in the late 90s as well. And another thing that I have to say about Donald was that in the early 90s and mid 90s, South Africa was such a force in Test cricket just because of Allan Donald, because South Africa's batting were kind of inconsistent and they didn't really get big scores like 400 plus like Australia used to. But Allan Donald's presence always gave South Africa such uh, uh, special thing in the match, and they always came on top because of Allan Donald's bowling. And every time South Africa were in trouble in a test match, or when the opposition looked like they were getting away from the team, Hansi Kronia always used to bring Allan Donald into the bowling attack, and he always used to deliver with a wicket most of the time, 9 out of 10 times. And South Africa in the 90s were really a dominant force in Test cricket, especially because of Allan Donald. Obviously, in one day cricket, South Africa had amazing all rounders and players, but in Test cricket, he was the reason why they were such a force, and they were definitely the number two Test team in the world after Australia, and the number one team in one day cricket, even though South Africa never won a World Cup. And it's also unfortunate that the 1999 World Cup, the semi-final tie, Allan Donald was involved in that run out with Lance Klusener. So that's something sad that Allan Donald was part of. And he had so many duels with Marco, Steve-O, especially Steve-O and Michael Atherton. It was very famous, and with Donald as well. And against West Indies, Brian Lara, he took Brian Lara's wicket many times in that series when South Africa whitewashed West Indies 5-0. Donald really troubled Lara a lot. So Donald always had that extra spring in his step when he bowled to Brian Lara, and like I said, he always considered Sachin Tendulkar and Brian Lara as the two best batsmen that he has bowled to. And Donald, I mean, obviously, I mean, he would definitely go down as one of the greatest fast bowlers of all time. Definitely one of the most hostile, aggressive bowlers of all time. And he was actually eligible to play for England, and he was almost about to play for England, but Ali Barker convinced him that South Africa will come back to cricket, and that's how he obviously played for South Africa. And sadly, he retired early 2000s. He had a lot of injuries. Obviously, he played many years for South Africa and bowled a lot, and he had a lot of injury troubles. Otherwise, he probably could have played a lot more. But he was such a match winner, someone who created such an excitement, and a lot of people really loved Allan Donald for his bowling, for his bowling action, the attitude that he had, the aggression that he had, the hostility, and his sunscreen also made him very unique as well. So that is my video on Allan Donald. I hope I haven't missed out on anything. And I would definitely recommend people to watch that 1998 Trent Bridge bowling spell against Michael Atherton, 1998 Trent Bridge fourth test against England, and also 96-97 the spell against Steve-O and Marco at Sydney. These are the two matches that I will recommend people to watch. You will never regret it. It's probably one of the most hostile fast bowling spell that you'll ever see. And also that wicket of Sachin Tendulkar in the Durban Kingsmead Test, that wicket, the stumps went flying out. That's also one of the best sides in cricket. So that is my video on Allan Donald, one of the greatest fast bowlers of all time and one of my personal favorites. Thank you for joining in, and take care. God bless you.